All right, thank you all so much for joining us for this winter community update for the Bladensburg Bus Garage Reconstruction Project. Next slide. Today's meeting is completely virtual, so we thank you for joining us online. Just a couple of things that we want to, some house rules we want to kind of cover with regards to the virtual meeting. Everyone starts placed on mute. We have Q&A portions after each section. And if you would like to ask a question, you have the ability to either type it in the chat or raise your hand, and we will be sure to unmute you and allow you to answer your question. With that, I will turn the meeting over. So just to Maya, who will introduce the team. After the introduction of the team, we'll have the project overview, updates, construction updates, and then the look ahead. Maya, good afternoon.
Thank you, Denzel. Good afternoon, good evening, Bladensburg community members. Thank you for your time today to be with us and bring you the latest updates, progress, and answer your questions related to Bladensburg Bus Garage Reconstruction Project. My name is Maya Nino, and I'm the Senior Program Manager with Bomata's Project Delivery Office. With me is Mr. Sean Pratt, the PMCM Project Manager, and Ms. Jamila Muhammad Ingram, the PMCM Deputy Project Manager. Additionally, Mr. Dan Goucher, the Contractor Project Manager, is with us today as well. With that, I'll turn it over to project overview and updates.
Thank you, Maya, and good evening, everyone. It's nice to be here with you for our first meeting of the year. So I'll start off with our project overview and updates. Next slide, please. So at our last meeting, we shared a project overview, further details regarding the compressed natural gas yard and construction progress. We also answered questions from the community. And as always, you can visit the project website for the recording as well as questions and answers. Next slide, please. We always like to begin with a project overview, especially for those of you joining for the very first time. The project will include a new maintenance facility, parking for 300 buses, charging infrastructure and equipment to support battery electric buses, and a parking garage for 450 employees. The project is being constructed in 3 phases. I do have an update to share regarding the project schedule this time. The overall project schedule has been extended by approximately 6 months. After evaluation by the team, this time extension, it was due to permits and differing site conditions. For example, for the differing site conditions, recall that the team found heavy debris and contaminated soil. So mitigating these items prevented the auger cast piles from being driven as scheduled. That said, we're currently in the first phase shown in blue on the slide, which consists of the replacement of the maintenance facility, and this will now take place from July 2021 to January 2025. During the second phase, shown in green, we will focus on building the employee parking garage, as well as some bus parking on the ground level from February 2025 to September 2026. And during the third phase in orange, we will complete the bus parking area. This takes place from September 2026 to June 2027. Next slide, please. We continue to maintain best practices for cleanliness and noise control at the construction site. This includes daily cleaning of work areas, waste receptacles and dumpsters stationed throughout the site, and tying down items to prevent flying debris during inclement weather. Also, the site contains DOEE approved water runoff controls. We also wash muddy construction vehicle wheels to help keep the streets clean and have access to an on site street sweeper to assist with this. We pick up trash weekly near the construction entrances as well. In regards to noise control, the typical weekday crew hours are from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and we limit hours of oversized load deliveries. Next slide, please. The site is bound by 25th Place Northeast, Bladensburg Road Northeast, Douglas Street Northeast, and the railroad tracks. In regards to construction traffic flow, Gate 1 on 25th Place Northeast has been serving as the main construction entrance. Starting in February, this will no longer be the main entrance. A new entrance will be installed along 25th Place Northeast toward the north and the railroad tracks. So updates to this map will take place for next quarter's presentation. Gate 2 will remain as a secondary entrance, which is along Bladensburg Road Northeast. In regards to parking, at this time, we have two areas designated for contractors' personal vehicles to help prevent congestion in the area. This consists of 2122, 24th Place Northeast, and the properties on 28th Street Northeast. Next slide, please. I'll highlight the newest updates for our permitting status, which are shown in yellow. This includes providing plans to DC Water for a second review cycle in winter 2023 and coordinating clearance letter approvals for the raised permit with the Department of Buildings. Next slide, please. Over the last quarter, we did release a quarterly newsletter, which included community meeting poll results, construction updates, photographs, and a video with a snapshot of activities taking place on site. Next slide, please. And I'll turn it back over to Dunzel for Q&A.
Thank you, Jamil. Again, if you would have a question, feel free to type it in the chat, or using the raise hand feature within the reactions, feel free to raise your hand and we will unmute you and allow you to ask directly. Any questions? Again, to ask questions, simply click the reactions button in the bottom bar, and the raise hand feature is in there. Okay, seeing none at this time. Next, we will head over to Dan, who will talk about the design highlights and construction updates.
Thanks, Donzel. Yeah, pleasure to be here. Good evening, everybody. Next slide. Kind of throughout these meetings, I've tried to provide some considerations for design for some of the community concerns. So the latest one is the Hickey Run Watershed. I know this has been brought up a little bit, so I wanted to give a brief kind of overview of what we've done through design to consider this watershed. So for those that don't know, the Hickey Run Watershed covers approximately 2 square miles of the Northeast DC. Right now, currently only 1 mile remains above ground, and that's where it discharges into the Arboretum. Around 1949, 1950s, that's when the tributary streams started being converted into underground culverts or storm drains. And you can kind of see, excuse me, on the three kind of images on the bottom, those are some of the old surveying plats that show the routing and the approved routing of this run. Interesting enough, there are kind of two pipes kind of running together, and then they split. I was unable to find the one that has the actual storm that turns down 26th Street and out to Bladensburg, but we have the routing, and we kind of showed on the drawing, so that's what I'll show on the next slide. So again, all of our civil drawings have the easement shown, so that we know where it is. Those are the 2 yellow highlighted lines there on the left-hand side. So like I said, all of our civil drawings show that. We are well aware of where those lines are. And then take it a step further, during the DC water approval process, we had to do section cuts through to kind of show the interaction with that pipe versus where some of our structures were. So you can kind of see that pink or fuchsia line there is one in section cut 3. And then on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see what that section is. You can see the blue dot or the blue circle on the right. That's the pipe. And then on the left-hand side, with a big gray box, that is actually the diesel vault. So that is the shoring is the 2 black lines on the side, and then the gray box is the actual concrete support for the tanks that go in there. Next slide. Taking a step further, so additional considerations. So for we actually have 2 fuel lines that cross that. You can kind of see I've highlighted one of them in red. The other one is kind of on the most left-hand side of that screen. All of them have a 1% slope. So coming from the fuel station in the building, they slope 1% back to a transition sump that does have a solid state leak sensor in it. That is to alert the operations if there is any liquid present in that sump. On the right-hand side, you can kind of see what the pipe is made up of. So I've mentioned it before, but it is a double wall pipe, which means that it has a core. It's a stainless steel core. And then there is a small barrier around the outside. That's item 2. And then item 3, there's another sheeting around that. So anything that potentially leaks inside hits the channels, and it flows back to that transition pump, and it's still contained within the outer jacketing of that. Next slide. Moving into construction progress. A lot of work has been going on despite the weather. You can see on the left-hand side, we have started the terracotta. This is coming around, I guess if your back would be towards 25th place looking at the building. That's the terracotta face there. The CXX retaining wall, we have completed all of the lagging and excavation, and in preparation for a delivery of the precast panels that will then slide in between the piles that were set a month ago. And then on the right-hand side, we did get the DC water meter in. This is a good picture just to highlight a lot of the utilities. Currently, we're about 50% done with underground utilities. Next slide. Again, if anybody remembers or recalls last meeting, I talked heavily about the stormwater retention tanks. So if you remember, I mentioned we had 2 on site. So this is the progress of the second tank. You can see on the left-hand side, we were excavating. That's just a picture. Probably we're about the 3rd lift. And then on the right-hand side, you can see that we got the mat slab, half of the mat slab in. Since the other half has been placed. We have put all the rebar up on the walls, and we have our first wall placement this Thursday. So basically every week, every Thursday, we will be placing the wall for the next 6 weeks. Then we pick up the interior columns. Once the walls are placed, then we start the beam, and then the beam then supports the lid, and then the lid goes on. So we are well underway with the stormwater tank. Next slide. Some shots from the interior. So this is inside the maintenance building. You can see on the left-hand side, kind of just getting started with some of the overhead rough-in. And then on the right-hand side, basically the same spot in the building, almost the same angle. You can see how much work has been placed overhead between all of the ductwork. A lot of the pipe there, we have fire sprinkler pipe, and then you have some hydronic pipes. We also completed some of the CMU walls in there as well. Next slide. This is another good shot of the interior fit out. So this is a combination between level 2 and the mezzanine. Here on the left-hand side, you can see that that's level 2 framing has been substantially complete. We've done a lot of overhead rough-in. And now we're focused on in-wall rough-in. In the center there, that's a lot of the mezzanine framing. So all of that is complete. Again, a lot of the overhead rough-in is done. You can see the top of wall drywall has been installed as well. Since this picture, we've actually started to one side a lot of the stud framing. Complete the in-wall rough-in, do all the necessary third-party inspections so that we can actually close up both sides of the wall. And on the right-hand side, it's just another good picture of a lot of the overhead rough-in that's gone in. That's one of the main corridors on the mezzanine. You can see we're, like I said, pretty much complete with all of that. The drywall's on, and just getting ready for actually bringing the drywall down the walls. Next slide. Just continuing with some of the interior bit out. So these are some of the support rooms. So on the left, you can see the electrical rooms. We've been fiercely pulling a lot of the wiring and building out the electrical rooms. I believe there are four electrical rooms. This is just one of the smaller ancillary electric rooms. In the center there, that's just the bathroom riser. Like I said, most of our bathroom risers have been set and they're plumbed in. And we've done some pre-testing on those. And then on the right-hand side, so this is the boiler room. You can see a lot of the overhead piping is complete. Since this picture, we've actually set the boilers, a couple of the support tanks, and the chiller. And the only thing we're waiting on is the water heater to be set in that room. But then we'll start to connect all of those pipes to those equipment. Next slide. I guess
Thank
turn
you,
that back
Dan.
over to Denzel.
Thank you. So again, if you'd like to ask a question, you can raise your hand using the feature within the reaction panel. So hit the reaction button. You can type the question. You can type question or a question mark in chat, and we will unmute you to answer any questions that you may have. Again, you can raise your hand, type your question in the chat, type the word question or a question mark in the chat, and we will unmute you. All right, Mr. Montague.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
A quick question. I know when we had the small group meeting, I heard it and it just went past me. There was a mention of a boiler room and a water heater. So it's too late to question the design, but this boiler room is to provide hot water service in the building,
Correct.
but not heating, right?
Well, it will heat the coils that go through some of the VAVs, the variable air frequency drives in the ceiling. So they have coils in there that will be heated when the air passes through. It'll warm the air.
Okay. Then let me ask this question. I didn't see any pictures of, and you may have not placed it yet, the stuff that's going on the roof. You just mentioned some kind of thing that hot water's passing, or the air's passing through. Is that later?
No, so our rooftop equipment was all placed. I think I had pictures of that in the last presentation, last quarter. What a VAV is, it's a small, they vary in size, but they actually go above the ceiling. And it's usually at the end of the main duct bank, or excuse me, the duct run. And then from there, it narrows down and it actually distributes the air into the offices and stuff. So you'll see those a lot in the office spaces. But like I said, they are used to, so like the rooftop equipment will heat the air as well. But as it passes through the duct bank, or the ductwork, it will lose its temperature. So then when it passes through what we call the VAV, it passes through the heated coils and it gets the air back up to temperature.
Can I ask another one down there?
Yes, I see no other questions. Please go ahead.
So since we're not getting from the outset a 100% electric bus garage, that means that we will have diesel and CNG, I guess, for backward compatibility with other garages until more garages are converted. Does the design of this building, is it to process those fumes that will come from non-zero emission buses?
Yes, we have exhaust work, the hose reels that come down attached to the back of the bus to exhaust the air. We have
Okay.
provisions for that as well.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? And again, if you have a question, feel free to raise your hand using the raise hand feature and within the reaction pop-up. Type your question in the chat or type question or a question mark, and we will call on you to be able to ask it. With that, I will turn it over to Jamila to discuss the look ahead.
Thank you, Donzel. So let's look ahead to the next quarter. Next slide, please. Thank you. So in the month of February, the team will work on the rainwater harvest tank located on the west side of the site, piping for the diesel and fuel vaults, building out the rooms in the C&G yard, placing concrete walls in the stormwater management vault at the east, working on foundations for the north ramp, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing rough-ins in the building, terracotta panels, and fit out of the mechanical and electrical rooms. In the month of March, we will continue with some of the work from February, such as the rainwater harvesting tank, the east stormwater management tank, the terracotta panel installation, and fit out of the mechanical and electrical rooms. We will also add concrete columns and walls to the north ramp. And in the month of April, we'll also work on underground utilities, install equipment in the building, and work on drywall and painting on various levels. Next slide, please. Here is an updated schedule for the remainder of the project. I'll highlight a few of the milestones, including completing the new maintenance facility in the fourth quarter of 2024, commencing demolition for phase 2 in the second quarter of 2025, completing the new parking garage in the third quarter of 2026, and overall project completion in the second quarter of 2027. And we'll continue to evaluate impacts to this schedule, especially as the battery electric bus design progresses. And from there, I'll say thank you and turn it over to Maya.
Thank you, Jamila. As you are familiar with our community engagement practices at this point, our updates don't stop here. Community engagement continues between quarterly meeting. So as a reminder, please sign up for our project updates and the community newsletters at our website, wamata.com/Bladensburg Bus Garage. The latest newsletter was published on January 3rd, so if you did not get it, please visit our website. Additionally, you can always reach us at our project email, bladensburgbusgarage@wamata.com, if you have any questions or comments. Also please feel free to follow us at the various social media sites listed below for additional project-specific updates and WMATA general information. Lastly, as we get closer to the spring season, we'll be announcing the next quarterly community meeting date. With that, I'll turn it over to Denzel for Q&A.
Thank you, Maya. As we enter into our last Q&A for this update, again, wanted to invite folks to either type the question into the chat or raise your hand or just type the question mark or question and we will call on you. Also, while we're waiting to see if there are any additional questions, we ask you to fill out a 1-minute meeting evaluation form. The link has been added to the chat. So you just click on that and it's just an evaluation on the meeting process and the information provided. All right, seeing no questions at this time, thank you all for joining us. You, as indicated by Maya, any information that you need on the project can be found on the project website. Enjoy the rest of your evening.